Welcome again to Roland's Reviews. We are still covering A Song for You by Robyn Crawford. If you remember from the last video, we completed chapter 2. We're moving on to chapter 3. Okay. The title for chapter 3 is Love Equals Love. Alright, so basically if you remember, Chapter 2, we left off, they were at the church and Whitney killed it and everyone was cheering her on and they were there. They went downstairs at the basement of the church to have a meal. So that same night, whenever they were done eating, Whitney and Larry were with Felicia and Whitney. Whitney, Larry, Felicia, okay. And this was directly after the church service. So Whitney whispered to Robyn that they were going to spend the night at Larry's place. All right. So Whitney set that up. And so Robyn says that she drove home, threw off her dress, put on some shorts, and Whitney picked her up in a taxi. Through the rear view mirror, they could see through the rearview mirror they could see a little fragrance, one of the little car deodorizers, but they said, Robyn says that the taxi driver smells so bad that the fragrance did little to hide it, and she and Whitney had to hang their heads out of the window. So when they got to Larry's house, Larry was going out to party, okay, so he told them, you girls just enjoy it. Make yourselves at home, and that's what they did. So Robyn goes on to say that, it was just a small bachelor pad, bed, kitchen, and a sitting area. Basically, that was it. They made themselves at home. They ate some Roy Rogers. Nippy had a joint. They smoked that together. They were sitting there on the love seat. She says that Whitney begins to read scriptures from the Bible, and she was talking about Jesus. Isn't he cool? Isn't he cool? That's how Whitney was saying. She said, I want to meet this man. So this is what she was saying. And we all know Whitney has a deep religious foundation. We know that already. So here Robyn says, she was a little bit nervous. She wanted everything to go right. The love seat was too small, so they pulled down his bed. And they were there. And of course, nature took its course, and Robyn said that it was everything she thought it would be, and that she said she wanted to be Whitney's friend. She didn't want to, push anything off on her. I think a lot of her family, most of her family disliked Robyn. They thought, well, she turned Robyn, gay. But as we can see, Whitney started after her, and she set this whole event up. But Robyn also stated that she had been praying and asking God for a friend, and now she finally had it. So she was a little bit conflicted. She was friends with Whitney, but she didn't want this little incident to change their friendship. So she was scared. She said she was a little bit nervous. She didn't want to push her to do anything she didn't want to do. She wanted her friendship first and foremost. She said she was learning, though, that when Whitney wanted to do something, she was going to do it regardless, okay? So she just, again, she's going into the details about them being together that first night. And she said now, Whitney smoked Newport cigarettes like they were candy. But she said that when she kissed her, that she really couldn't, it was just a faint smell of tobacco. She said it was like the kiss was sweet like honey, and she said that they were that's what they were doing basically all night. They were with each other, and she said that they weren't ashamed. She and Whitney basically just felt like they were one together, and the energy between them. Robyn says everything was expressed that night. They wanted to touch and explore each other. They did. Now, when they woke up, now remember, this is Larry's house, a bachelor pad. Robyn said she woke up first and there was blood all over the white sheets. Oh my goodness. So she didn't know what was happening. So she started shaking Whitney. and Whitney, they both sat up trying to find out what's going on. Well, the blood was from Whitney. So this was when, and I think Cissy also referenced this in her book, this is when Whitney started her monthly cycle, or her period. So obviously, this being a bachelor pad, there are no feminine products. Robyn had Whitney to wrap the sheet around her like a toga and said, "I'll be back." She went to the store and bought some feminine products. Then they took the sheets, threw them in the incinerator. That was the end of that. Larry missing some sheets. Oh well. So anyway, Robyn just says that after that, you know, they were together the entire summer. They couldn't stay away from each other. They were just, you know, the connection was undeniable. You could feel it. Robyn also states again, she knew from the first time she was at the church and she heard Whitney singing, she said she knew she was in front of greatness, and she knew, you know, she was in the presence of something powerful, okay? Now see, this is where, if you remember, throughout Whitney's entire career, she was dogged. They were asking her, "Are you, you know, gay, about sexual?" And she always said no. But Robyn says they never taught labels. They did not label each other. They just lived their lives. And she said she hoped it could go on forever. And so, again, they were enjoying each other the entire summer. And Robyn states here, because everyone thinks that she's just gay, she dated guys as well. So she states that how, you know, over that summer, their love and affection for each other blossomed. Whitney would go to Robyn's basketball games, okay? And sometimes, remember now, Whitney was modeling. So sometimes Robyn would drive her into New York to her appointments called go-sees. Or, you know, if Robyn didn't drive her in, she'd just catch the train. Often, Whitney loved the beach. So they would go to the beach a lot. Okay, so she does mention that. Whitney was always in church. Sometimes she would spend time with some producers that she met through her mother as well. And so, see, Michael Zager is one in particular that Robyn mentions. Whitney worked with him. So she mentioned that. Okay. She also talks about, who is it? John Simmons. Okay. Whom Whitney also met through her mom. And Whitney worked with him a bit. And Robyn says he was a nice guy. All right. Okay. Also, so Robyn was going with Whitney on to rehearsals. Okay. And Robyn mentions that one day they were together and Whitney sat down at a piano, and she told Robyn, "Sit next to me." So she said, "I'm going to play something for you." Robyn said that she started playing the song, and Whitney asked her if she knew what the song was. Robyn said no. So Whitney continued to play, and Whitney said, "Just give it a minute." Robyn said, "Just give it a minute." Then Whitney continued playing on the piano. Then Whitney started singing. "First time ever I saw your face," by Roberta Flack. I'm not going to quit my day job, okay? So Whitney told Robyn the first time that she saw her, she thought she was beautiful. Okay, continuing on. So, you know, they were hanging out. One night, Robyn mentions that she brought her little sister Bina along. She went home with Whitney. She states that how Whitney had to do all the work. So far as house cleaning goes. Her brothers didn't have to do anything. But remember now, I mentioned before, Whitney told Robyn, you know, her mother was rough, you know, just ignore her. So Bina and Robyn were there talking to Whitney while Whitney was in, so that Robyn and Bina were in the living room. Whitney was in the kitchen washing dishes. So Cissy came down, and Bina apparently had her feet on the sofa, so Cissy said, "Get your bleepity bleep feet off my couch." And Bina started to cry. So, Bina didn't know, but Robyn knew because Whitney had already warned her how rough her mother was. So anyway, she talks again about how they always just fun, good times. They're going to the beach. She talks also about one instance where they went down to the beach and Robyn suggested that they grab a rowboat, okay, instead of their usual sunbathing and an occasional dip. So they were paddling and then they were, just spending time. And then after a while, it was time to go back. Robyn, this is so Whitney, I love her. Robyn asked Whitney to help row back to the shore. Whitney said, "I'm not rowing, shiggity." They started arguing, so on purpose, Whitney let one of the oars float away. Oh my goodness, so Whitney, gotta love it. So eventually, Robyn was able to reel the oar back in, and they finally made it back to shore. Also, she talks about how, whenever Cissy wasn't around, they had a swimming pool in the backyard, Whitney did, and so they would be over at Whitney's house. Whitney would be jumping in and out of the pool, bobbing in and out, singing, "Ooh, you make my love come down, make it come all the way down. Oh, you make my love." Evelyn Champagne King. I'm still not going to quit my day job because I still don't know how to sing properly. All right. So she mentions that. She talks about how sometimes they'd hang out with Felicia and Larry or her cousin Kathy's house. So there we go with that. Robyn also mentions you could tell that she and Whitney were tight. It wasn't just, all about sleeping together. It's just being around them, you could tell. They were friends, lovers. They were everything to each other. She said they weren't falling in love. They just were. So they had no labels whatsoever for their relationship. Sometimes they tried to hide it from people. They didn't come out. They didn't have labels, but they still didn't want to. You say, well, we're together. Also, she mentions religion. We know Whitney was big on religion. So she said that despite their understanding of what religion might say about their relationship, neither of them expressed any guilt or judgment on each other, okay? Sometimes they go to a hotel. They couldn't stay for more than one night. Obviously, money was tight, okay? Nippy was modeling, and Robyn still had some money that she made at the casino, okay? So they'd go to Ashbury Park, stay in the beachfront hotel. She mentioned Bruce Springsteen, where Bruce Springsteen was the boss of the shore, okay? Now she talks about her first experience with cocaine, all right? Ooh, of course, they were at Whitney's house, okay? So, Whitney's stepbrother Gary was, over at the house sitting on the porch with some of his friends. I don't know, I guess Whitney stepped out for a moment. They asked her, "Hey, you want to try it?" Robyn, sure, why not? Well, thanks again for joining me here at Roland's Reviews. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content. All right, stay tuned for Chapter 4.